This curtain has torn in two from top to bottom. What's going on there? Well, in order to understand that, you have to understand really all the way back to the beginning of the Bible. In the beginning of the Bible, in the Garden of Eden, God is present. God is there. And he makes everything, and he makes Adam and Eve in his image, and they enjoy his presence. They walk together in the cool of the day. God says, enjoy everything that I've made, except for this one tree, don't eat from that. And in Genesis 3, they disobey God, they don't trust his heart, and they eat from the tree that they shouldn't. And what happens is, God says, listen, I love you. He clothes them in animal skins. We talked about that last week. But because I am holy, meaning different from anything else, and you're now sinful, we can't dwell together. So he kicks them out of the Garden of Eden, and at the edge of the garden, he puts a flaming sword, saying, you can't get back into my presence unless you go under the sword. Well, then you fast forward, and you get the temple. The people build a temple, and in the center of the temple is this place called the Holy of Holies. It's like a little mini Garden of Eden, where God's presence dwells. God's holy, perfect, righteous presence is there in the Holy of Holies. And on the curtain, from the Holy of Holies into the holy place in the temple, on that curtain was decorated with trees and with flowers, all this imagery of the Garden of Eden. And this place was so holy that only one person could go in there, and only once a year. That was the high priest. The high priest would go in, and this is interesting. This place was so holy, and they were so afraid as sinful people of being killed in God's presence that they would sometimes tie a bell to the high priest with a rope. And he'd go in there, and they'd kind of be listening in, and they'd hear the jingle, jingle, jingle of the bell. And if that stopped, they'd go, all right, he died. And the rope was there so they could pull him out without having to go in themselves. That's how serious this is. And when the high priest went in once a year on Yom Kippur, he would have to go in with blood, and he would have to sprinkle blood all over the place. Why? Why blood? Because you don't get into the presence of God unless you go under the flaming sword. And so, lambs and bulls and doves and all kinds of animals would have to be killed. They would have to go under the flaming sword in order to give the people access, and only once a year, to the presence of God. And so when Jesus Christ breathes his last, forsaken by his Father, and Mark says the curtain of the temple was torn in two from top to bottom, what is he saying? He's saying Jesus went under the flaming sword. And now, access that was only available once a year and had to keep happening over and over, year after year after year, access is now open. You're invited into the presence of God. How? Because Jesus, the true Lamb of God, went under the flaming sword. So, verse 38 is the invitation of the cross. It's saying, come. Come. Are you guilty? Yes. Are you ashamed? Yes. Are you afraid? Yes. Don't be. Don't be. Because Jesus went under the flaming sword. You're welcome.